Hello everyone and welcome to another JelloCast with myself, DevBear, and since Tutt is still muted, our special guest today will be Steven.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, hello, my name is Steven. I have a channel called The French Pineapple.
Wow. Amazing.
And of course we have Tutt.
Yeah.
Hi, it's me. It's me.
Her name is Tutt.
That is definitely me. Yes.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
So, for this particular stream, if I sound different, it's because I'm using Steven's terrible microphone as opposed to my wonderful microphone.
Mine is great, yours is bad.
Mine's a condenser, yours is a crappy USB one.
This has been going on ever since we started, you know, setting the podcast up.
I'm looking at the chat and Rose Entertains says, Steven looks so cool. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
Hey, Varen Mosley. Hey, Brendan. Hey, Toothbrush.
Who's Rose Entertains?
Who? God damn, dude.
You're such an asshole.
Fucking ruthless.
I'm not an asshole, I'm a nice person named Steven.
I'm a nice guy.
The
You
asshole
know
is
those
named
ones
Mr.
on Reddit?
Prime.
Oh my god.
You are the same person.
Of course.
Alright, so,
I'm not Mr. Prime, don't be silly.
for this one, if the stream is strangely slow and bad, it's because I'm currently at Steven's residence over in Virginia.
That's in the United States, and there is a thunderstorm outside, so
Yes.
the power could go out at any moment, cutting off from the internet and causing mass chaos like Ragnarok.
Hooray.
Wow. Name drop,
Wow.
foreshadowing. What?
Sounds like a good segue. Hey, for this stream we're gonna be talking about mythology, because it's Steven's
Yep.
favorite stuff.
Yep. So, first thing that we got on our list is, what is your guys' favorite mythologies?
Okay.
So,
Steven's
since you
our
are the
guest.
guest, Steven,
I go
go
first.
ahead.
My favorite pantheon slash mythology is the Norse mythology. What about you guys? Or do I elaborate on that?
You
Go ahead
can
and
elaborate, or we can all say our main things first.
Okay, say your main things. I said my Norse mythology. Top that.
Tut?
Since I only know about it in Greek.
Well,
That's
basically.
The only thing you know about.
Listen, freshman year was a good year for me, okay?
Hey, I'm a big fan of Asian types of mythology.
Those are alright.
I like them.
It's okay.
You're allowed to like
Babies
okay.
being born out of literally thin air.
and fruit
Yeah, I mean,
and bamboo stalks.
yeah, I like the bamboo stalk one. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It's a nice
Gold
one.
nuggets.
So, Steven, yeah, could you elaborate on any specific mythology, like one particular story out of it all that you particularly like?
Well, it's a common favorite for everyone, the story of how Thor loses his hammer and has to dress as a woman to get it back. But my favorite one would probably be the one with Utgard Loki, which is a giant that makes Loki, Thor, and Thor's human servant do a bunch of tasks, and they all fail, and they all learn why they failed, and then they learn that they're actually stronger because they failed.
Stronger because they fail. You know, the way that you explain it probably makes it the most interesting and confusing at the same time.
Yeah, I can elaborate on that one later. I'll elaborate that later. All right.
Later?
Let the others give their answers.
Dev, do you want to go first?
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, we have a
Alright,
triangle
well-
thing. It's first me, then you, then Dev.
So, from most of my Greek mythology knowledge, all I can remember is stories from the Odyssey, of course. And one of them was how, I forget the dude's name, but he called himself nobody after being stuck in
Odysseus.
Odysseus, thank you. He called himself nobody when a Cyclops had trapped him and his men and asked for his name and stuff like that. And then he called out to the other Cyclopses saying that nobody is here, and then they got to leave. So, nice. That's all I remember.
That's all you remember? Man,
That's all I
you
remember.
explained it kind of poorly. But basically,
Yeah.
Odysseus lands on an island, washes up on the island of the Cyclops, who herd sheep, and they're like, hey, how about we grab some of those sheep because we're hungry? And when they tried grabbing the sheep, the Cyclops came over into the cave and locked them in for the night. And they're afraid that the Cyclops was going to eat them, which he did. He ate 2 of them.
Nice.
Of the crewmen. And then Odysseus said, "Hey, nice to meet you. My name is Nobody, and let's chat for a little bit." So the Cyclops, thinking that Odysseus' name is Nobody, you know, greets him and all that. And the next day, or next night rather, when the Cyclops is asleep, they poke his eye out, and then he's like, "Wow, oh guys," he calls his all other Cyclops buddies. He's like, "Guys, nobody poked my eye out." And he's like, "Wow, really? Did nobody also steal your sheep?" That's a reference to overly sarcastic production that I just made. And
Nice.
and then when he opens the door, they run out, and the sheep run out as well, and they hide under sheeps whenever the Cyclops is trying to see where the humans are to eat them and prevent them from leaving. So then they escape, and when he's on his boat, Odysseus, safe from the Cyclops, he says, "Hey Doofus, my name's not Nobody, it's Odysseus." And then Cyclops tells his dad, "Hey, Dad Poseidon, Odysseus poked my eye out." And then the rest was history, as in Odysseus got screwed over by Poseidon over and over and again.
Wasn't that like the entire trip home? He was constantly getting barraged by
Yeah,
the
basically
sea.
it was.
Did he ever make it home?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Wasn't it like
Yeah.
way later than he was supposed to?
Like 10 years instead of
Like
3 months
10,
later.
10
years,
years instead
yeah.
of 3 months. Nice.
Yeah, you know, a little
Just
setback. Minor
tiny
setback.
reminder. No
Minor
problem.
setback.
Nice.
Minor setback.
Alright.
You just explained Tutt's favorite one. Though,
Yeah.
didn't you?
All right.
Thank you.
I didn't even go into too much detail about my story, but it's Dev's turn.
Daddy Poseidon.
Papa's turn. Papa. All right, your turn, DevBear.
Okay.
What's your favorite story?
My favorite one.
Yes.
Well, my favorite's more like well known. I like Icarus.
Icarus?
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about your mythology.
No, that's my favorite like group of mythology as a total would be like Asian types. But my favorite mythology, like the single story, is probably Icarus.
Okay, I thought we were choosing from the
damn.
mythologies we chose at the beginning, because I'd be the Norse guy, you'd be the Asian guy, and I'd be and Tutt would be the
Yeah.
Greek guy.
If I'm going the Asian route, what would be my favorite one? I mean, I do really like. It's Princess. It's Kaguya, isn't it?
Princess Kaguya?
Yeah, she's in the bamboo shoot. Your little baby girl born in the bamboo shoot gets
And-
raised by a bamboo farmer, but then her beauty attracts the emperor. Isn't that right?
Emperor's son, yeah.
Yeah, the emperor's son, and they bring her to the castle, and it turns out she's actually from the moon.
Yeah.
And
it's
at the end of it,
actually
she ends up going back to the heaven. It's like more of a heavenly goddess kind of thing instead of it's a space girl.
Yeah. And,
But that was I really liked it.
doesn't she
because
drink a
it was-
potion from the gods that make her forget all of her earthly attachments?
Yeah, no. The only way for her to leave Earth and go back to the moon with all of her people is to leave all of her earthly attachments behind. But she'd fallen in love with the prince. The emperor's son. She'd fallen in love with him, so she wasn't able to detach herself from all of the world, so she wasn't able to go home. So they gave her a potion, made her forget everything, and once she forgot everything, no earthly attachments, she was able to return.
Yeah. Became emotionless.
Yeah,
It's really sad.
Remember, kids,
it is. Yeah,
if you're a god, you don't have emotions.
so I like it. It's pretty good, like Asian myths and stuff. Like, didn't they try to make an immortality potion out of fucking mercury?
Yep, they did.
I
love that.
And-
thought that was like Chinese.
Asian.
That's
Asian
also
type.
Asian,
Oh.
yeah.
I thought we were just generalizing Japanese. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
Kaguya is a Japanese one though.
Yeah. Also, do you know that gunpowder was a failed attempt at a immortality potion?
I didn't know that. Can you please give me the story?
Well, the guy who was trying to make an immortality potion came up with gunpowder. The end.
Wow, great. You don't really know much about that, do you?
No, but
How does one accidentally make a powder when trying to make an elixir?
I mean, you can make, I don't know, like, you know how chocolate milk, there's a powder, you can put it in your milk? Maybe he was going to do like that, I don't know.
Put gunpowder in your milk, take a drink.
But when he tried to cook his powder, it blew up in his face.
Ooh, maybe he just didn't cook it right.
Yeah.
Oh my god, if he cooked it right, oh no, that's gasoline to make napalm, isn't it?
I
Like
don't
you
know.
have to boil
I
gasoline
haven't
to
tried
make
making
napalm.
explosives yet. So,
I haven't either, but I know this because of like when I don't know, I read it somewhere.
yeah, so dear TSA, if you're watching this, know that I have no experience in making explosives, so you don't need to stop me at
Again.
the airport next time.
Yeah.
Because that happened last time I missed my flight, so screw you, TSA.
That
I
was
hate you
really
so
bad,
much.
All right then.
So, moving on. What was the next one?
Next is compare and contrast myths. So I assume that we kind of did that, but if you guys want to, we can do.
I never
like,
went into much
elaborate
detail
on-
with my story.
No, you didn't. We
No, go
kind of
ahead.
glossed over it a second. Go ahead.
All right, so
Elaborate
my
on what yours
favorite
is.
story is Thor is traveling with his buddy, an Earthling, a regular mortal, who just happens to run really fast, and his pal slash nemesis, Loki, who is not his brother in the mythology. If you know stuff,
if you're cultured.
if you're cultured, like just drop your knowledge from the Marvel stuff right now because it's not applicable at all. So Loki is not brother to Thor; he's blood brothers with Odin, which is Thor's dad. Anyways, they're traveling, and they're just traveling about, and they meet this giant. And this giant says, he's a nice guy. He offers to carry his their provisions while they're traveling about, and they say, all right, that sounds pretty good. So they travel together, and they stop for the night, and the giant just falls asleep right on, leaving all the provisions in his giant bag. So Thor tries to open it, but he can't open it. So he tries to wake up the giant by smacking with his hammer 3 times. It doesn't work. Even though, like, the last time he tried to smack so hard to wake him up, like, as hard as he ever hit with his hammer named Mjolnir, and it did nothing, and he just woke up for half a second. He's like, well, I think an acorn fell on my head. He was a big giant. So it's kind of like an insult to Thor. He's like, wow, I am so much weaker than I thought I was, when usually, like, I am literally the most powerful god of all of them.
Get
like,
a
physically,
experience.
like, I'm the best warrior and all that. So it's like, ah, shit, this sucks. So the next morning, the giant wakes up, and they part ways, and the gang finds this castle estate place, and it belongs to a giant named Utgard Loki, not to be confused with Loki, which is the Aesir friend. And the giant welcomes them in the castle, and he's like, all right, are you guys good at anything? And yeah, they say, yeah, we're gods. We're pretty much the best at whatever we specialize in. So the giant Utgard Loki wants to test their strength. So Loki, not the giant, says, I'm the world's fastest eater. I can eat anything as fast faster than anyone ever alive. So Utgard Loki brings one of his servants, and I forgot the name, but basically he's kind of reddish, and they race to eat. They finish at the same time, but the Utgard Loki's servant ate everything, including the table and the bones.
Ooh.
Whereas Loki just cleaned the bones and finished it at the same time. So he's kind of humbled because, he didn't eat as much and as fast as he thought he could. And
how much fiber do you think is in an entire table of wood?
I don't know, but he ate a lot of it, apparently. And
he ate the entire table, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He ate the whole table. Loki did it.
Why do you want to know how much fiber is in it?
The demon ate it.
It may come up later.
So he got humbled. That's the idea. The Thor's human servant says, well, I'm the fastest runner. I'm the fastest in my town, fastest in my country. I'm pretty good. And so Utgard Loki brings another one of his servants, and they go for a race. The human loses, like, big time. So he says, all right, let's do it again. And this time they come close, but the human still loses. And the third time he tries to race again, and he loses even worse than ever before. And he gets humbled. And then Thor says, all right, I drink a lot and pretty good. I can drink anything. There's no cup I can knock down. So Utgard Loki brings out a giant ass cup, and he's like, all right, empty this yell. We can do it in 2 gulps. But if it's okay if you can only do it in 3, since you're so much smaller compared to us giants. So he takes one big gulp, like he drinks like so much liquid, and when he checks and finishes a gulp, he notices it like didn't go down at all, or barely at all, barely able to notice. Second gulp, he tries again, and he's like, oh, this time I definitely finished it, but no, it's like barely like an inch or a thumb down. And like everybody makes fun of him a little, like, haha, he can't drink it in 2 gulps like we can. So he tries to do it a third time, and he still fails.
Of course he does.
But it still went down like you can see it to the naked eye how much it went down. So he's like, all right, give me another test. I'm Thor. I can do something better than any other. So all right, can you pick up my house cat? Well, this is a giant's house cat, so it's not like a little teeny wimpy house cat that normal sized people have. So it's like, yeah, I'm pretty strong. I can pick up your house cat. He tries to lift it up so much, but he can only get one paw off of the ground because the cat keeps on arching its back, and it's a giant cat, so he can't get it off the ground completely. It's like, oh man. I can't get this cat off the ground, and I'm humbled now, but I still want to do another test and prove that I'm stronger. So I'll wrestle any one of your giants, and I'll like put you on the ground. And they're like, yeah, my warriors, like, you can't even pick up the cat, so why would my warriors want to fight you? So they get Utgard Loki's old nurse that, you know, raised him from a baby, like, alright, if you can wrestle this old woman, maybe you can wrestle one of the men. So he tries wrestling the woman, but the woman ultimately brings him down to one knee, nice. and he still loses. So very humbled. They're about to leave, all three of these companions, and they're so pissed. And then Utgard Loki says, "All right, I'm gonna admit, you were surrounded by illusions this whole time. Everything that you thought you raced against or fought against, it wasn't really what it was." So it turns out that Loki, who couldn't eat as fast as that servant, turns out that servant was the physical embodiment of wildfire. So wildfire eats everything, burns everything, and nothing's faster than it. But Loki was almost as fast. The next one was the human servant of Thor, who was actually not racing just some random servant, but he was racing the embodiment of thought. And action can't be faster than thought, since you have to think about the action. So he almost beat that, and he's basically the fastest man alive at this point if he almost beat thought. And Thor, when he was drinking that mead, it wasn't just mead that he was drinking. He was drinking from the bottom of the ocean, and he drank so much that it caused the tides, and that's why we have tides.
Whoa. Look at that.
And the house cat he was wrestling was not actually or trying to pick up, wasn't actually the house a regular house cat or a giant house cat. It was Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent that circles the entire Earth. It's basically longer than the circumference of the Earth, and changing and trying to pick it up was actually causing a bunch of earthquakes and changes in the tectonic plates, and that's why seismic activity happens. And the last thing he fought was the old lady. It wasn't just an old lady; it was old age. And old age only brought Thor down to one knee, when usually it just kills you, like, eventually. Yeah. So Thor basically survived against old age. So basically, when seeing all that, and also the giant that he tried to wake up with his hammer by striking it 3 times, that was also Utgard Loki in disguise. And the reason it didn't wake him up properly when he tried to hit Thor is because he cast an illusion spell and actually put a mountain between himself and the hammer. So, and with Thor's strikes,
between that, he still woke him up a tiny bit.
Yeah, and actually he was pretending to be asleep the whole time. So when Thor was striking 3 times, he actually caused valleys and gorges and mountain ranges and all that. So he built all that. And so Utgard Loki admit, yeah, you guys did things I didn't think anyone would ever be possible of doing, since, you know, they're gods. And so because of that, I'm gonna move, and you're never welcomed in my place ever again, because I'm terrified of you and your power. So then Thor goes home.
I'd be pretty fucking scared of that shit too, man.
Yeah. So they caused seismic and earth-shattering and natural disasters and / events to exist.
Earthquakes.
Mine was pretty long compared to yours. Now your turn to speak, because I don't talk usually that long.
Give us our turn to speak when we have nothing to say.
Alright, speak
Honestly,
now.
I am uneducated on the subject, so please, Dev, take my place.
I mean,
what do you guys think of my story, since it was long?
I think yours is a lot more... it's more of a story aspect to me. Like, it obviously doesn't exactly feel more realistic, as a lot of myths and mythology ends up trying to put whatever their story comes in, it comes into what happens in real life. And that's what yours did, so it sounds more like a story than a myth. But
yeah,
with that, I like that, because I've noticed from as many as I've read, and I haven't read a lot when it comes to Asian myths, despite liking them, is even though, you know, I like a lot of those myths, I think they're really cool, but none of them really have that much influence on what happens in daily lives. None of them really bring up the start or end or whatever of how things work. Mm-hmm. For that, I'd have to go into, like, Dreamtime stuff, for Aboriginal stuff. That's great. Like, Rainbow Serpent is one of my favorite stories there. I don't fully remember it, though. But yeah, in the Asian ones that I heard, it's more of a story of, like, 1 or 2 people, and more often than not, it ends up being a love story, I found, in sometimes. I kind of dislike that. I prefer the stories that have more influence on what the way that the world is created and such. If I want to get that, I go like New Zealand mythology is pretty good for that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a few other stories from Norse mythology. They can, like the one I told wasn't in Neil Gaiman's book Norse mythology, but there are other ones that I know from that book that you guys that I can retell to you guys if you want.
I feel like it'd be a bit long though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean there's one quick one.
One quick one?
Or well, there are a few quick ones, but let's talk about something else since I just did a 10-minute speech.
Dev, do you want to do, or explain one of yours, or do you want to,
I mean, I didn't actually bring any light into Icarus because I made the assumption that probably everyone actually knows pretty well what the story of Icarus.
Maybe the audience doesn't, so.
That's fair. Do you remember what was it? It was Icarus's father's name, wasn't it?
I don't know, but he's the one who made the labyrinth, the Minotaur.
Yeah, I don't remember his name. One of you guys might remember his name, but the father or grandfather, I think it was, of Icarus. His father? Yeah. The father of Icarus created the giant maze that the labyrinth that the Minotaur was put in after it was created because it was such an abomination, that kind of stuff. But after all that, wasn't it that the king was scared that he would fall into the wrong hands and create creations for opposing people that would destroy him?
That's not.
That's not it?
Yeah, creating the maze was actually punishment.
It was punishment.
Yeah, you know what for?
No, I don't.
So King Minos, the king that commissioned the maze, King Minos is the king of Crete, where this story takes place.
Crete.
And his wife. Okay, so he has this bull, this very fancy bull, and every year he has to sacrifice a bull to Zeus. And one year he gets a very fancy bull, and he's like, wow, this is a beautiful bull. I don't want to sacrifice it to Zeus and keep it for myself. So he sacrifices a lesser boar, and Zeus notices that he
angry about it.
And gets angry about it.
Makes his wife fuck the
he
boar,
makes
create the
he makes the king's wife fall in love with the bull, and she wants to have sex with the bull. But
I remember now. Can I keep going then?
Yeah.
Right. So Icarus's father, the wife of this man, she went to him and asked him, pleading, to make a contraption where she could sit in that makes her look like a bull, so that she could have intercourse with this bull. And once he accepted. I'm not sure why, but he accepted.
She's a queen.
Well, yeah, but still,
money.
You can know what kind of terrible shit's gonna happen
money.
there. But after that, he builds a contraption, and she gets into it and is able to have intercourse with the beautiful bull. And after that, she gives birth to the Minotaur. And as a punishment to the man who created the cow suit kind of thing, made the labyrinth, and he was to be sitting in the middle of it, and then also sent the Minotaur, this abomination, into the labyrinth to stop him from escaping as well. And then he, with his son Icarus at the time, of course he wanted to escape.
Yeah.
But he knew he had no chance if he was going through the labyrinth. It wouldn't work.
Yeah. So he was in the tower, one of the towers.
Yeah, so he was in a big tower. He made the ingenious idea. He is an inventor. He created wax wings for himself and Icarus, and he warned Icarus before they left, make sure you don't fly too high, because then the wax will melt because of the sun and you'll fall. Don't fly too low, because the salt spray will make it all wet, and it won't be able to get any lift, and you won't get any higher, and you'll fall into the ocean and die as well. So they start flying, and they're doing pretty well for a while. Icarus and his father are both sailing through, but Icarus is filled with pride at this, or
hubris.
Zealotry, hubris. Yes, he is so enamored by the ability that he now has to fly through the sky that he ends up trying to test its limits, and he flies higher and higher and higher, and disregarding the warnings of his father, and he flies way too close to the sun, and his wax wings melt, and he falls to his death.
Yep.
And I like that story just because it's used so often, and it always feels like, it's the kind of story people are like, I understand it. I can figure out the message, and I can put it everywhere, and I like that I see it a lot. I like a mythology that a lot of people see because it inspires more people to go look up different mythologies. They see Icarus and they're like, oh, that's really cool. I wonder if there's other cool things I can look up.
Because it ties into the Minotaur story, and then
there's
then
so
the
much
story
there.
of Theseus who defeats the Minotaur, and so on.
Hey man, just go into the whole history of Crete.
Exactly.
It's great. It's wonderful.
King Minos. That's why it's called the Minotaur.
Yeah, I want more people into. The message of Icarus was, don't give in to hubris.
Yep.
If you fall into zealotry, if you believe yourself to be able to do something and,
if you're
don't
doing
think about
pretty
it.
well for yourself, don't try to push yourself too far too soon.
Yeah.
Like, don't bite off more than you can chew.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly
there
that.
you go.
It was. I always enjoyed listening to other people tell that, and some people tell it in really simplified terms like we do here, or they'll tell it like the entire thing word for word, and I realize the kind of like language that they have to use when they do that.
Yeah.
You want to
I
tell
remember. Well, I was gonna kind of expand on the Icarus story.
Go ahead, Tutt.
Kind of off topic, but I remember watching. I don't know if you guys watched it since during your guys' childhood you weren't necessarily in America, but there was this show that would air usually on Saturday mornings that I would watch, and it would like tell virtues and stuff like that, I guess, using like different mythology. You know, mythological stories and stuff like that. No, it wasn't VeggieTales, but it was kind of close. You know VeggieTales. Wait, do you, Jeff?
No, the only thing I know about VeggieTales is what you guys have told me about VeggieTales.
Oh my god. Okay, we're gonna be talking about this after the stream.
Fuck,
But
I don't want to do that.
But
just as a thing, Rose said she'd be interested in hearing about the rainbow snake. She said it's the rainbow serpent. I'm gonna talk about that after this because I also want to delve into it because I don't know a lot about it, so I'm gonna look it up and I'm gonna go through it.
All right, continue.
But it was this like really weird cartoon that like discussed. I forget, but it was like something virtues or something like that. And it was like this really weird animated series, and like it had like a bison, a talking bison, and two children. And it was just weird. The bison would like pull out books and start reading these mythological stories, like usually in Greek mythology. And I remembered that they told the story of Icarus and his father, and it was just so like when I remember watching the episode as a kid and having nightmares because of how like gruesome Icarus's death was on this fucking cartoon.
Jeez.
So I don't know.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I wish we knew the name of it because I want to fucking watch it now.
I think I can look it up sometime, but
sometime after stream maybe, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, bringing in the sense of my home, for I am an Australian and I love my country. So, the rainbow serpent here, it's an Aboriginal tale. It's the Dreamtime Aboriginal art stuff. You see a ton of art about the rainbow serpent, and I've heard a couple stories about it when I was younger, but I don't hear much now. So I'm reading off the site here, all right? So, hey, if you want to look this up yourself, just look it up. Look up rainbow serpent. You'll find a lot about it. There's a lot of information on it.
A lot of cultures have the rainbow serpent. The Aztec had the rainbow serpent as well.
Yeah, I figure.
It's everywhere, just like the god of thunder.
I'm specifically going for Aboriginal because I'm an Australian and I like I like my country's mythos and I like Aboriginal. So, rainbow serpent, rainbow snake. It's an immortal being created by God in Aboriginal mythology. It's a very popular image. I've seen it all over the place. The connection between snake and rainbow suggests cycle of seasons. So it's basically the rainbow serpent make the seasons. I think it was. No. The rainbow serpent is the creator of human beings. It has life-giving powers that send conception, fertility, spirits to all the watercourses, such as the billabongs, the rivers, creeks, lagoons, and it controls the producing of rainfall. So people do, if they do rain dance, they do a rain dance to the rainbow serpent.
Nice.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I'll see if I can get the actual full-on story, because I remember reading a book about it. I read a book on the rainbow serpent. Wikipedia, don't fail me now.
Tisk.
I've actually never heard of the rainbow snake. I'm gonna be really honest. Or rainbow serpent, whatever.
I mean, stories in Aboriginal culture are all passed down by word, actually. So none of them were actually written down or anything like that. Yeah. It was all stories that were given from person to person.
That's actually really cool.
I can't properly pronounce, I don't think, the name of what they have it in the actual, in their actual language. It's like Waugl. I'm probably
Nice.
butchering that
Yeah.
straight away.
Good.
But, you know, I'll do my best there. So, let's see. Serpent stories. There's a couple of them. Some origins, roles in culture, influence in monoculture, that kind of stuff. So, let's see. Story right here. So, passed down for generation, however, environment. Serpent as the creator, the beginning of everything. That's the most common one. It doesn't write down the story, though. You guys talk about something different while I look up this stuff.
Did you guys know, dear audience, did you guys know that today is Tutt's birthday?
Yes!
Oh, shut
Yes!
up. You guys are embarrassing me.
Everybody now!
It's your birthday.
It's birthday for Tutt.
2003. Waiting for a call from your family. Boom, 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 boom. They forgot about me. I got hurt feelings. I got hurt feelings.
Hey.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Thank
birthday, Tutt. You're the best.
Thank you.
Maybe not the best.
Hey,
Oh,
hey!
Let's not be too rash with our
Don't
wording
be a
here.
jerk, it's a birthday.
Pretty up there, I guess.
Pretty up. You're a good middle. I'm kidding. You're like on the second floor, maybe. Maybe not 6th floor. 3rd floor at best. No, I'm kidding. Happy birthday.
Ah! I found it.
Nice.
Here we go. So, I'm going to read the story of the rainbow serpent here.
Alright, good boy.
In the dream time, all earth lay sleeping. Nothing moved, nothing grew. One day, the rainbow serpent awoke from her slumber and came out from under the ground. She traveled far and wide and eventually grew tired and curled up and slept. She left marks of her sleeping body and her winding tracks. Then she returned to the place where she had first appeared and called to the frogs, "Come out!" The frogs came out slow because their bellies were heavy with water, which they had stored in their sleep. The rainbow serpent tickled their stomachs, and when the frogs laughed, water ran all over the earth to fill the tracks of the rainbow serpent's wanderings. And this is how lakes and rivers were formed.
That's really cool.
Yeah, with water, grass,
Cool.
and trees sprang up. Also, all animals awoke and followed the rainbow serpent across the land. They were happy on earth, and each lived and gathered food with his own tribe. Some animals lived in rocks, others on the plains, and others in trees and in the air. The rainbow serpent made laws that they all were to obey, but some became quarrelsome and made trouble. The rainbow serpent said, "Those who keep my laws will be rewarded. I shall give them human form. Those who break my laws will be punished and turned to stone, never to walk the earth again."
Ooh.
The lawbreakers became stone and turned to mountains and hills, but those who kept the laws were turned into human form. The rainbow serpent gave each of them their own totem of the animal, bird, or reptile from whence they came. The tribes knew themselves by their totems: kangaroo, emu, carpet snake, and many, many more, so no one would starve. The rainbow serpent ruled that no man should eat of his totem, but only of the other totems. This way there was food for everyone.
That's pretty smart.
The tribes lived together on the land given to them by the rainbow serpent, or the mother of life, and knew the land would always be theirs, and no one should ever take it from them. Yep. And then England came.
Fucked everything up.
Yep.
To be fair, there's actually a lot of tribes, and they still have their land, and we try to acknowledge it as much as we can, and there's a lot of apology stuff going on with that.
Take notes, America. Oh,
Yes.
wait, too late to do that because they're all dead.
Oh, that's not good.
Yep. Well,
So there's Rainbow Serpent. That's
that was
my
actually really cool.
that's one of my favorite Dreamtime stories. I've only heard a few though. Fun fact here: I was going to give Tutt a didgeridoo when I went to VidCon, but turns out, and this is something I didn't know that I found out before the trip, but I already bought the didgeridoo. It is apparently a horrible, bad luck kind of charm to ever give a woman a didgeridoo.
Wow.
What the hell? Oh my god!
Sexism.
So a didgeridoo is apparently formally for the Aboriginals. It is a man's instrument. It is to only be played by a man.
Wow.
And apparently it's
That's
really
sexist.
bad omen, really bad juju vibes. That's so offensive. To give it to a woman. So, out of respect and fear of all of the gods of Dreamtime, I decided to not give Tutt the didgeridoo.
Damn it.
I ended up
It's
giving
like-
it to a different person. I had something else to give to you, but we only spent like 10 minutes total together, so I never gave it to you.
Yeah, what the heck,
Oh.
Tutt? You didn't get to sign my sketchbook, and why didn't you want to sign my sketchbook? You're mean.
You didn't ask me.
I asked everyone to sign my sketchbook.
I remember you didn't. I asked you if you were okay with a hug, and I gave you one.
Yeah, it's because you were late, you were heading to the meetup thing
right,
upstairs.
Yeah.
So you were like, quick meetup, give a hug, and then you were just
Yeah.
bolting out.
You're right.
You walk so fast.
I have long legs. I'm a
It's
tall
not
man.
it's not long legs, it's you.
I
It's
have
different. You walk with purpose. It's a
yeah,
different
and
kind
also
of walk.
I run away from my parents. I spend my whole life running away from my parents.
Ooh,
All right.
that's some real
Huh.
shit. All right, so Tutt, do you have the next topic that we're moving on to?
All right, so our next topic is how to create a story, and how, like a good
Mythology
story.
and stuff. Okay,
That's how
I
you
need
do
this
it.
advice because I am currently doing that.
You're currently doing that?
Currently creating a mythology of my own.
Oh yeah, you are.
Pantheon. Yeah, we talked about this.
We did.
remember? You
We talked
don't
at
listen to me
length.
ever. I talk to you and you don't listen. Oh my god, you're a terrible boyfriend.
You should say that shit. But all right.
I'm gonna punch you in the fucking face.
That's
Everyone,
fine.
you guys know what
Rose
to
is
do.
watching.
All right, so who wants to go first with how to create a story? Because I'm sure we all have our different ways of doing it.
Who goes first?
Yeah, Tutt, do you want to go
Well,
Yeah, go first.
first? Yeah, go first,
sure.
Tutt.
Women go first.
all right.
All right.
Usually whenever I start off trying to create a story, I listen to like music or trying to get some inspiration. But then I start like sketching characters, you know, just trying to figure out what this character looks like and, you know, how their personality would be based off of how they look. And then I will center a story around them and their personality and stuff like that. I'll edit it along the way, of course, and yeah, that's basically all I do.
Nice. Forgot to bring up there was questions in there. Also, Red Time Cat asks, how do you celebrate Rainbow Serpent dances? Like, are there special outfits using certain instruments? With that kind of stuff, I'm pretty sure. Now, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that Aboriginals have their own special garments, but not specifically to these particular stories, these particular gods. They have different songs and different stuff, but it's all the same stuff. They use didgeridoos, they use drums from skins of animals, I would imagine. And, you know, there's not a whole lot of complex clothing when it comes to Aboriginals. I've never seen them make really complex gear. It's more to do with paint and art with their kind of stuff.
That was actually really cool.
Yeah.
Alright.
What does it mean
What
to
about
create
you?
a mythology? Are you talking about a collection of stories in the same world? Red Time Cat, we're talking, I think, mostly for Steven, he's talking about pantheons, which is just groups of gods that
It's
govern the
religion.
world.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a religion. Like a mythology is usually based in a religion. It's practiced by followers.
yeah, religions and gods, and you know, sometimes cults and sects. It depends on what kind of story you're building.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what that. For me and Tutt, I think it's more on the side of just creating stories, less about the myths about it, because that's more just shaping the world as it is. But
Well-
we, you know, normally, I mean, I adopt the world that we live in, or I adopt worlds that I know about, so I don't have to work too hard with pantheons. I try to focus
Well-
on the actually how the world works.
Well, for me, I actually have one story where I have a pantheon, and
Ooh.
that's actually my first ever story, and I've been working on it for the past 2 years now. I haven't
Nice,
posted
liking it.
anything on it, but like, I don't want to give too much spoilers on it, but the two main characters that I have, I post about them regularly on my Instagram. Shameless plug-in.
Hey,
But it's called Dawson and Wisp. Yep,
yeah, it's Dawson and Wisp.
yep. And I think we've discussed this before, but Dev voices one of the characters.
I do.
So
Oh, interesting.
It's going to be wonderful.
It better be
Yeah.
wonderful.
Hey.
Hey.
So, on that topic, I just want to go off on it. But first stories. Steven, do you have a story, like the first good story that you ever made?
Like a story.
Good story.
Yeah.
Senior year of high school, I joined a creative writing class, and the first few weeks of school, we had to write a short story with a number limit of 2,000 words. I thought that meant, well, I didn't think that meant, I wanted it to be exactly 2,000 words. So I wrote a 2,000 word story in like a night, and it was pretty good. I workshopped it a few times. It was, I can spoil it because it's not a story that I'm continuing.
I'm gonna spoil my one too.
It's called the H2O incident, which is a pun that only works if you speak English and French.
Yay. Fuck every other language.
Yeah, basically it's the H2O as in the water molecule, and H is just spelled H2O, and O is spelled the French way, how you spell water. Yay. So it's a double pun.
Nice.
So it's the incident that involves this potion called the H2O. So basically, retired CIA agent lives in Arizona with his adopted brother, because his adopted brother turned out to be not straight, so his parents kicked him out of the house. Also, his adopted brother happens to look like a goblin. It's never explained. He just looks like a goblin pulled out of a Lord of the Rings book or something.
Nice.
His brother likes to wear his name is Gerald. So this.
Oh.
Yes, it's Gerald.
Yeah.
And the CIA agent is named Ron, and his deal is the CIA agent. He is retired because he took a wrecking ball to the face, which shattered his skull, and his brain somehow survived, and now he wears a robot head, not a robot mask, a robot head.
Yes.
His head is a prosthetic robot thing. So
Awesome.
he lives in
I have a question.
What?
Is it a prosthetic brain?
The brain is his real brain.
Oh, how did they survive? How did that survive?
Ex Machina.
Listen, it's the future.
Yeah, it's the future. Yeah, sure.
We can rebuild it. We have the parts.
All right. Yeah. So basically, it's Ron Robertson with his brother Gerald
We
Robertson.
have the technology.
Gerald likes to wear little dress and stuff, and sundresses mostly. So anyway, the story starts. It's one regular afternoon. Ron is sleeping, taking a nap in his favorite leather chair. He doesn't wear a shirt, so his muscular body just sticks to it, and with the sweat and all that, it's kind of gross.
Anyone who pays enough attention with Steven's videos may have seen a few pictures of Gerald not wearing a shirt and having his robot head in his sketchbooks.
Yes, indeed. In my very first few sketchbooks.
Nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's one afternoon, and Gerald just comes home from the flea market, and he brings back this cute pink dress and a little bottle labeled H2O, and he says, "Hey, look, Gerald, I bought this magic potion at the flea market." And Ron is like, "Damn it, Gerald, I told you not to spend my money on useless shit like this." So he takes the potion away, but Gerald says, "Hey, it's my potion, I bought it, and don't touch my stuff, and also it's not kangaroo pee-pee because for some reason Ron thought that he bought actual kangaroo urine." So a
lot of good uses for kangaroo urine.
To prove that it wasn't kangaroo urine, he drank the whole thing.
Oh.
And then threw the bottle to the side and locked himself in his room.
Nice.
So Ron is like, whatever, screw this idiot, and goes to do his taxes. And whatever.
Wonderful.
Yeah, like a good citizen. And like halfway through the night, Gerald comes upstairs wearing his new pink dress. It's like a nice gown. It's all pretty, has frills and stuff. And he's like, hey Ron, look at my dress. And he says, "Okay, really cool dress, Gerald. I'm trying to do taxes." He's like, "Hey Ron, I'm pregnant," which is impossible for a man goblin thing.
Alright.
And then he's like, "God damn it, Gerald, I told you not to drink that water." And he's like, "Wait a second, how are you pregnant? You're a dude." And he's like, "Her name is Jennifer. She's growing inside me."
What the fuck?
What the fuck?
This is my first story. Shut up. So I was like, "Okay, you're being weird." And then Gerald's stomach.
Wait, we're being weird.
Okay, yeah, okay, stop being weird. So like Ron ignores his brother because he's being dumb. Like he's probably not pregnant. But then, what do you know? Gerald's stomach just expands because he's a skinny guy, and it just expands. It's like, whoa, that's weird. It's like vor or some shit.
Yeah.
It's like DeviantArt shit, dude.
Yeah.
Oh
So it's like, all right, we're taking you to the hospital right now because your stomach expands so much that your dress is now ripped. So they rush to the hospital, and
Oh my God.
And then like they go to the front desk and they're like, hey, my brother needs help, and then the hospital says, sorry, we don't do plastic surgery here, we can't fix his face. It's like, no, that's not the problem. So they take him to the hospital, and they're like, oh well, this weird woman will probably need a C-section. So they open up the woman. Ron is waiting for Gerald to do in the operation. He's outside the room when all this happened, and he's just sitting there with his robot head. He just hears this huge scream. So he like busts in the operation room, and he sees one of the doctors holding this weird baby with a banshee head and a lamprey's mouth. And like, wow, what the hell is that? And he's like, we didn't found a uterus, but we found this in the stomach. And then it's like, that's pretty gross. And then the banshee baby just yells so loud that everybody's covering their ears, and the doctor covers its ears. But wait, he was holding the baby, so he drops the baby to cover his ears, and then the baby falls to the ground, cracks his skull open, and dies. And Gerald's like, my baby! You killed my baby! What the fuck? So that's awful. And he's just yelling all over because his baby just died. And Ron says, shut up, Gerald! I will buy you a teddy bear to replace it. And it's like, oh, okay, thank you, Ron! And then they close him back. They close Gerald back up because the C-section was still in process. Like literally 5 minutes later, Gerald just hops on his feet, even though his stomach just got patched up, and he gets the teddy bear and they drive home. The end.
Okay, so
my first story. That was my first story ever.
All right, so like, did you get pulled up after class by the teacher?
I read it out loud to the full class.
You read it out loud,
and I did the voices and everything.
Oh my god!
God damn it, Gerald! I told you not to drink that water. Sorry, Ron.
Did people laugh?
They loved it. They loved it. They thought it was peculiar, but they loved it.
Of course, they thought it was peculiar.
How old were you?
Like, I was.
Tav Guillory said, "I think I read something like this on a Sonic fanfic forum."
Not mine.
No, deny it.
Yeah, I was 18 when I wrote this.
18.
Oh my god, that's how old I am. What's up?
Okay, so I'm gonna tell my one now.
All right.
Mine's much less fucking weird, buddy.
Mine was average.
Oh, I want to like animate that, dude.
Nice.
Dude, I'll send you the comic I made of it.
Yeah, you did.
Hell yeah.
For it. All right, so mine I made when I was about 14, I think. At this particular time, I was super entranced with the idea of sci-fi stuff, so I decided...
You were 14?
Yeah, I was 14.
Okay.
Yeah. What was that supposed to mean?
Nothing. Go on.
Bitch.
Don't call me a bitch on the internet, you little cum bucket suck-it slut.
Oh my god. Alright, so...
Oh my god.
Tell us your story, little...
In the first basic information stuff, I wanted to choose a world that had... right before I made the story, I watched this crappy documentary kind of thing where it was like, oh, there was once 2 planets orbiting each other instead of just Earth, and then they collided, and that's how the moon was made. And so I decided, now what if there was like a super advanced society on one of those 2 planets and then a really shitty one on the other? And then the really shitty one was jealous at the big one, so they decided to make a really giant, super destructive machine and blow up the other one, accidentally blowing up half of both planets.
Before you said that, it just sounded like advanced one being America and not advanced one being Mexico, but go on.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what you're talking about.
Go on.
So, with that, I made the entire story based on the aftermath.
Actually, no, it sounds more like North Korea and South Korea.
Shit.
Wow.
I made it before that even happened.
Get on this.
All right, so...
Yeah, because there's definitely one country before that happened. No, go on.
So... In the story, it was the aftermath. After, still somehow able to live on the planet, it was on the low-tech one. Followed the story of a guy named Jack. He's like, I don't know, I think I made him like 19 or 21, something around there. He was traveling through the wasteland of the planet, trying to get to like a bunker kind of thing, going underground and stuff. He was with his grandpa, and it was a huge sandstorm that was just ripping shit around. There was like scrap metal stuck in the sandstorm, just slicing everything up. So Jack and his grandpa, they go into this little cave. Before I even have enough time to build up the characters, I kill off the grandpa, and the grandpa's like, go find the bunker, and then he dies. So Jack spends like, I don't know, like whatever amount of time consists enough for him to be walking through the wastelands before he finds this random shitty bunker thing. He turns it open, goes down, and immediately when he gets down to the bottom, after going through this huge desert sandstorm of metal scrap and all this crap, he lands and he gets like bare feet because his shoes are ripped up. right onto grass. And he's like, whoa, this is fucking nice. What is this shit? Because he has no idea. He was born after this calamity, so he has no idea what any of this shit is.
Wow.
Steps on grass, and he's like this weird fluffy shit all over his feet, and he's like, this is nice. This is good. And he hears weird howling all over the place. It's like a single corridor down there with grass everywhere. Really dull, barely lit at all. No idea where light would have come from, but it's a story. So, he starts walking down this hole, and he goes into this weird big open area where there's like a light from a big sword looking thing. Looks like kind of like a sword, but not really. Sticking out in the middle of the room. It's covered in like paper seal stuff. And he decides, man, I'm scared of howls, so I'm gonna just grab this. And he grabs this immediately. A shit ton of these fucking weird black wolves pile into the room. And when he looks at them and they feel threatened, they just kind of turn into a puddle on the floor and slip around in like a shadowy thing. So one jumps at him, so of course he just picked up this big sword thing. He smacks it in the face and it fucking explodes.
That's amazing.
Oh,
yeah.
As you do.
As you do. And he's like, well, that works.
as one
And then
does.
he starts running down the hallway, getting away from him. As he gets into a more light area, there becomes less and less of these creatures. And then he hears this tiny whimpering, and he walks by. And all these ones have been like black with red streaked fur all over the place. And he goes into this room, and he finds this little tiny one. It's white and blue. And it's the most adorable little piece of shit ever.
Aww.
And he goes near it, and it freaks out, and it turns into a cloud instead of a shadow. And he's like, well, you know what? This constitutes I like you. You're alone and wounded. So he did that, like he rips up his clothes and he tries to bandage it up, and it seems to respond positively and starts following him around. So he's obviously wanting a friend and feeling pretty down about his grandpa dying out in the wilderness kind of thing. So he lets the thing follow him around, and he reaches this little like contraption. It's like an elevator that goes down. He gets into it, he starts going down, a TV pops up, and it's the general kind of, hey, if you're watching this, humanity's fucked. How's it going? On the TV screen, it's actually the character on the screen, because I'm a shit and I have to make every character really important, was Jack's father. Jack's father going to the screen, Jack's freaking out like, why the fuck is my dad on the screen? He says, welcome to Utopia. And it goes up, and it's like a forest outside, like grasslands everywhere, and there's like all these nice peaceful herbivore animals jumping all over the place. And Jack's, you know, pretty perturbed about the whole situation, and at some point I just did like a huge fucking dump of exposition all at once, and then I ended the story without building on it at all.
Aww.
And the exposition basic, and I made the entire story in my head, but I didn't write it all down, was that Jack's father and Jack's great-grandfather, Jack's father wanted to make a utopia after he saw the calamity and the kind of damage it did to the world. However, Jack's great-grandfather was the man who pushed the button to cause the entire calamity to happen. So, two different sides of the spectrum here. Generally, the weapon was caused by 3 interlocking pieces that were used as a key. You know how nuclear missiles have their code stuff. They had a simple key, which was a locking mechanism which you turn, and it immediately shuts off and turns off a pulse, which sends the electricity to make it go, yes, fire. Then there was 2 other pulses. There was the aiming device, which looked similar like a gun kind of thing, but not quite. And then there was like the shielding system. Now, the shielding system didn't seem to work at the time because the firing mechanism literally blew a hole in it, which has caused the entire fucking thing. And what happens is there were 3 different bases on different parts of the planet. One of them was blown to hell, leaving the artifact just thrown through space kind of thing, and ended up landing somewhere else on the planet. And in his hands, Jack had the key mechanism which sends the pulse. That was the sword. It looks like a sword, but it's not actually a sword. I didn't know how to really explain it, so that's literally how I wrote it in the story. It looks like a sword, but it's not a sword. The other one was there was a different person who got the firing mechanism and was using it to cause super bad havoc on one side of the place, and the other person had the shielding mechanism, and it was just a piece of shit. They were like junk in a scrap heap. That was my first good story, which I was forced to make, and had a bunch of references to how my teacher was a bitch in it.
Aww,
Well.
yeah.
Similar story there. One time I was teacher being a bitch. The same teacher, I was out in the playground, and I was just sitting next to like this swinging bars, and these 2 girls kept on telling me to go, and they were trying to bully me. And so after they realized I wasn't going to leave, they went over to a teacher and said, I'm not going to leave, even though they were bullying me. And the teacher went over to me and said, why are you doing this? Just go away. And I'm like, you're helping them bully me, teacher. What is this? Wow. And she said, don't worry about it. And then walks away. And then like, I'm understandably annoyed. And then I see them eating food. And when I'm young, I'm like, oh, you're not allowed to eat food when you're not on the veranda. That's messed up. You got to get in trouble with that. So I went to the same teacher. I said, hey, look, They got food. They're eating food and they're not on the veranda. They're not allowed to do that. And she said, oh, don't fib. Don't fib. Don't tell lies. You're lying. I said, I'm not lying. It's under her hat over there. I will go over pick it up right now. And she said, no, don't fib. Don't fib. And I went over and I picked up the hat and she closed her eyes.
Oh my
How
god.
Fucking hate
dare
that.
she?
That is, it stuck with me.
Man,
That made me dislike teachers so much, man.
yeah, you want to become
Oh
a
my God.
teacher?
No, I don't.
No,
Not anymore.
not anymore.
No.
Okay.
I wanted to become a teacher because I wanted to be better than that kind of shit, but
Alright.
nope.
Yeah, you can't be better than that.
No.
No, the higher is way too. The bar
So
is way
there's
too
my
high for
story.
you.
Tutt,
It's a good story.
Yes.
you got any good stuff?
I mean, I could explain like a little short story that I had gotten from a dream, I
like
guess.
this. I like this idea.
So I can explain like the concept of the world. So imagine like kind of like a dystopian future, I guess, in
Yeah.
a way. Like this world that they live in, there's a planet or like a civilization away from them that has oxygen and they live freely, and it's like a really big and expensive kind of place to live in. And on like the like Earth, I guess, all the atmosphere left.
Ooh.
And
That sucks.
what they have to do is they have to buy oxygen in order to like, you know, survive. So like, you know, you rent water, your
Lorax?
electricity.
This what?
The Lorax.
No! Oh my god! I am offended!
They buy oxygen too in that movie.
Yeah, they do.
But they
Let's
had to
make- let's
buy
make the
fresh
air more
air, not
polluted, something like
oxygen.
that.
I'm talking about like they have to buy oxygen in order to survive.
Same,
Yeah,
Because,
they
like-
had to do that in
difference.
Lorax too.
Yeah.
But they could walk out and they can breathe without like having a spacesuit on or anything like that.
That's fair.
Yeah, so they had to buy oxygen, kind of like they had to rent water, electricity, and stuff like that. And I guess it was kind of like this one character would like feel as though they needed to like try to rise up against that, because it was kind of shitty how they were just, you know, making people pay for oxygen when,
It's pretty fucked
know,
up.
Yeah, I agree.
they... So, yeah, that's basically just the gist of it. I don't know what else to do with it other than just like make it a short story instead of like a series.
I mean, that's pretty cool. I
Mm.
remember I had a dream once where there was an ogre that pooped money, and he met a guy who was supposed to kill him for like 1,000 grand, and then the ogre was like, "Why don't you just let me poop out gold for you?" And he's like, "That's gross, but sure." Yay dreams.
Okay. So who were you? The guy that wanted to kill him, or like the ogre himself?
I was the ogre.
Mhm.
Hey, I poop gold.
It's like the golden goose thing, or like
Yeah.
the goose that like poops out golden eggs.
That's
Yeah.
about right, yeah. So,
Yeah,
Steven, you got anything on your mind or anything?
I
he's
wrote.
tired.
Yeah, I'm a little tired.
What?
I wrote this. Oh, at the end of the year of my senior year for creative writing, we had to do two things. Well, there were two assignments. There's the first assignment that was like closer to the middle of the year. It was to write an epic story, like an epic like a
Like
long.
like epic as in Epic
Like
of Gilgamesh,
Fortnite?
or
Yeah, that kind of
Like-
story with like the what's it called? The hero's cycle, the hero's journey. There you go. That's the word I was looking for.
Hero's Journey. That's
Yeah,
good
we had to
stuff,
do like a hero's journey and model it after like epics like the Odyssey or Gilgamesh and so on. And the end of the year assignment was to do anything in any format that has to be considered creative writing in some way, shape, or form. And I just illustrated the story I told you guys earlier and made a comic out of it. And that comic is shit since I had 1 week to do it. It was awful.
You ever gonna redo it?
I might redo the comic or make a video about it. I don't know.
I think it'd be cool if you redid that comic,
Yeah.
because that's a pretty weird thing.
Yeah. All right. But the epic that I wrote was well, it was untitled because in the 2 weeks we were allowed to do it, most people just wrote 6 pages and counted that as their epic. I wrote 30 pages because I did not stop. and I was going insane, and he never graded that assignment. And my story, even though there was no title, or there was a title but I forgot it, it was amazing. It was amazing. The main character was called Bukar Ishek Cantabel, or pronounced Booger Ishek Cantabel.
It's Booger.
Yeah, and it was about a little demon who didn't like his mom and was mad at his mom, so he moved out with his brother, but his mother was captured and killed by his brothers before he could move out. And it was very sad. It was his twin brother, whereas the other brothers were his older brothers who killed his twin, and he was sad about that. And he finds an old man, and the old man helps him escape. And he goes into the real world, in the surface world, and he's like, well, this is pretty cool. I need a place to stay. And then he meets a giant elk, and the elk tries to kill him because he's a demon. And it's like, oh wait, you're a nice little demon. I'll help you out for a little bit. I have a friend who's a lizard who lives in a tree. How about you go hang out with him for a little bit? That lizard's name? What was its name? What was his name?
What was the lizard's name, Steven?
What was his name? It's in my sketchbook. I forgot his name.
Which sketchbook was it in?
It was in sketchbook 2.
Probably 2.
Yeah.
Little lizard man.
He was pretty cool. I forgot his name though. And they would just hung out in his treehouse and would watch Game of Thrones and stuff like that. And it was just pretty cool until his mom came back and he's like, I'm gonna drag you back to the house now. And they're like, how about no? And then there was a fight, and then she went back, and then when she came back, she brought the whole army of brothers and sisters, and they fought in an epic battle because he prepared for the battle. He made an ultimate weapon with the help of the elk and the lizard, and he defeated his whole family and killed everyone, and that was fun.
Yay! Booger killed his whole family.
Yeah.
So hey, little reference here
Yes.
as well. If you've paid attention to Steven's video, you'd also have seen Booger.
Yeah, Booger.
Yes.
We talked
It's
about
like-
him in the Steven Sketchbook
It's
podcast.
like one of my favorite little things. You showed me him like way early on when we were just talking like normal. It was good. I like that.
That story is completely non-canon to what I am currently doing.
I would
with
hope
Booger.
so.
Yeah,
All things considered.
yeah, because everybody's dead.
Yeah.
Except the mom, she
Well-
survived somewhere, and it's supposed to be like a cliffhanger for part 2, but that never came around.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't
Make
have
a
to.
part 2, man.
So, with that, we've been streaming for about an hour now. I think it's probably
Yeah.
about time to call it quits as such.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Everyone go subscribe to Steven if you haven't, because he's a pretty chill dude.
Hey, I'm Steven, the French pineapple.
Me and you, Tutt, we're very small in comparison, yet we will say, hey, subscribe to the
Listen, every little bit counts, okay?
It does.
Yeah.
I'm amazing. I'm
Yes.
kidding. Subscribe to their
absolutely.
channels, but if you're watching this, you're likely subscribed to at least DevBear. But
better be.
subscribe to Tutt and DevBear
Yes.
and die.
Right. Don't
I-
do that one. No.
I sent the link.
No,
I sent the link of to the stream in my server when we first started.
You're gonna, because this also gets posted as a video. You want to post the video as well?
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Dope.
Alright.
Alright.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, Steven.
It was a pleasure. Why didn't you guys invite me sooner? I have no idea.
I've told you, I've been intimidated
Dude.
by you.
I'm not intimidating.
Steven, to be fair, this is like the perfect opportunity for us to do this.
I know, but I'm not intimidating at all. Have you met me? I'm not intimidating at all.
He says as
I'm
he
an awkward
looms over the
person.
top of me.
I am no. I'm not being sarcastic. I do not believe I'm an intimidating person.
You're not very intimidating.
Yeah, I'm not.
Thanks everyone.
I'm just easily scared, I
Yeah,
guess.
thanks everyone for tuning in this time. I hope you enjoyed
Yeah.
yourself, and I hope anyone watching after we finish the stream comes to the actual stream next sometime.
Yeah.
I wish I could give you a permanent exact time, but me and Tutt are really bad at scheduling, and we never keep the time, so we will
Absolutely.
inevitably fuck it up if we put one
We
on.
were supposed to stream this at 3 or 4 in my time zone.
Yeah,
and
we
it's
are like
just
literally like 7. We were 6 hours late.
more
Well,
than
I feel
we scheduled,
terrible.
and we're 6 hours
I
after
feel
schedule.
terrible.
We'll get there. We'll get there someday, Tutt. We'll have the willpower at some point, but not
Yes.
but not today.
Not today.
So hey,
Alright.
Thanks
Thank
so
you
much
guys
for
so
watching.
much for watching.
yeah, please come
Thank you
next
very
time.
much. It was very fun to talk to these idiots.
Bye bye.
Yep.
Bye. I want to die.
Bye.